Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Mukti Veda Vibhagine Vyomakta Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satiguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Om. Okay, Namaste, welcome. We begin from the verse 49, page 70. Elizabeth, page 70.
Thank you.
You are welcome. The verse is 49 at the bottom of the page. The peculiar nature of Maya is mentioned in an Upanishad. It says that before creation, there were neither objects nor non-existence, but there was darkness, by which is meant Maya. This does not mean that Maya exists independently of the self, but that it borrows whatsoever degree of reality it has from the self. Okay, so in one of our Upanishads, there is a mention, as we know, this text, it is it's a compilation of the same teachings that we find all over the Upanishads. Yeah? So it's said to be a manual, a nice, well-organized manual, because Vidyaranya pulls the concepts, the notions, the teachings from different Upanishads, including some from Gita, and then he compiles it in this text. Okay, so it says here that in one of our Upanishads, it is mentioned that before creation there were neither objects nor non-objects, meaning to say before the manifestation or before creation there were no manifest objects, and there was also non-existence, meaning to say, let me see if I make it more clear. Before creation, there were neither universe nor the non-existence of the universe. Okay, objects there go to the manifest universe, or the non-existence, meaning to say non-manifest. So before the creation, it says that we had a certain condition, a situation in which the world was not there, but the absence of the world is not to be taken as non-existence. Okay, so there was no cosmos, there was no universe before, but that does not mean that there was not existence. Existence was there because, as we know, before the manifest universe, existence consciousness was there because it is the substratum of the manifest universe that comes in and out of the picture, as we know. It's manifest, it appears and disappears, it appears, it disappears, and it appears and disappears within Satchitananda, existence itself. So before the creation, the universe was not there, but it was not non-existence. There was darkness. There was a certain manifestation placed here as darkness, which is meant to be Maya. So it's present Maya as darkness, meaning to say there was no light. There was something there which somehow contains the universe, but it's not bring forth the universe, you say? So we could look into this Maya darkness as the black hole, you understand, in which the whole universe may be contained as potential, as seed. Yeah? So it's meant by, there was a sort of darkness, which is meant to be an indication of Maya. This does not mean that Maya exists independently. Now he brings another concept. So this Maya, that is something that is not non-existent, and it's not yet manifest necessarily, yet before the beginning of the manifest creation or universe. Now this Maya, this Maya is there, okay? It's placed as a dark matter, and but that does not mean that Maya has independent existence, okay? That it exists independently of the self, of consciousness. So as we know, there is now no other source of existence besides Brahman, existence itself. Everything that exists from the self. Yeah? So therefore, Maya being said to be not something that is real, but at the same time, it's not something non-existent, It does exist, okay? And but it's not real. And but yet it exists, okay? Because we can see its effects. And we know the world as we know it is an effect of a certain power called Maya. So this does not mean that Maya has an independent existence, okay? But it means that it somehow borrows whatsoever degree of reality. We know it is an apparent reality because Maya is Mithya, is the seed of Mithya, let's say. So whatsoever degree of reality it is gained, let's say, or borrowed, or it is considered by the self, okay? So it's nothing really new. We are exploring from different angles, some pointers into the nature of Maya, which is a little bit tricky because as we will see here, it is not Sat, it's not Asat, okay? And it's not non-existent, So it is something that is there because we experience its effects. When we talk about the manifest universe, we say that it's not really Sat, it's not real, it's not unreal, but it is apparently real, this physical material universe. It's apparently real, although we can touch, feel, and smell, and so on. So how we know it is not non-existent, and we can call it as an apparent reality, or why? Because we experience it. We experience the world. So now we experience the world. We cannot say it does not really exist. So it exists within a different category of existence called Mithya, existing as an apparent reality. So Maya, likewise, we experience Maya. We cannot discard Maya as non-existent. Why? Because we experience Maya, but we don't really experience Maya because Maya is a very subtle energy power. We don't really experience Maya, but we can infer and understand that Maya is the cause of creation. Therefore, we experience the effects of Maya. Therefore, we know that Maya must be something not non-existent, So we cannot say that it is pure existence, but we cannot say that it does not exist because we experience its effects. Maya is said to be darkness because it has the power to apparently obscure the self. So this is interesting because I did not remember this passage that refers to Maya as darkness, okay? But there was darkness by which is meant Maya. So I don't have here in the commentaries. I would have to go and look for the talks of Swami Paramarthananda to see if he makes more mentions of this analogy of Maya with darkness before manifested as the universe, okay? But I looked into it just an hour ago, and I did not have time to dig into the talks of Swami Paramarthananda. But I could try to find it. Should not be very difficult because I have all his talks on Panchadasi properly organized. Maya is said to be darkness, and he is said to be because it has the power to apparently obscure the self. So the self is self-luminous, self-evident, but yet, due to this power of Maya, it somehow, it covers, or it obscures, it hides the self, as if it was a shadow, it was a darkness, or something like that. So as we know, Maya does not really obscure the self, and the self remains shining as the universe manifests, the shining world. So the shining world is the universe of Satchitananda, the self manifests as the shining world. So Maya does not really obscure the self because the self shines as the world. But it somehow obscures the self from the standpoint of the human Jivas, because the Jivas, they want to know, they want to discover the fundamental nature of everything, of existence, of the world and the universe. They want to know what is the source of this world, the God particle, and so on. And they have a hard time because their minds, they are never going to sense the presence of the self-luminous consciousness. And they are using this consciousness in a way, this reflect consciousness, to do the research into the nature of reality, but yet they remain obscured by a certain power called avidya, which is the effects of Maya in regards to the human intellect. The human intellect, we hear that Maya is a beautiful, intelligent ignorance. So what it means? It means that it's beautiful because we see its effects. The universe is beautiful, nature is beautiful, and it is extremely intelligent because we see that everything in nature is intelligently designed. So, and then it says that it is ignorance. So when we say that Maya is ignorance, we refer to the effects of Maya in the human intellect, because the moment that Maya projects all these names, colors, and forms in this within consciousness, and then the jiva, the human jiva, comes and appears within this superimposition, and then from that standpoint, the human jiva cannot find the self. Why? Because they are going to find the world and not the self. So as if this Maya power to project, to superimpose so many configurations of the elements within consciousness, that power is obscuring, it's making it, it's covering the self from the standpoint of the human intellect, okay? So it is ignorance, but it's intelligence. It is intelligence because we know that it's intelligently designed, and we know that there is a creator, and this creator is not really Mr. Maya, but Mr. Maya's best friend, which is Ishvara, pure sattva. Then we have the creator as pure intelligence, and then we have this beautiful universe, and we have the Jivas, which is the self, but suffering from this phenomenon called avidya, which is ignorance. This Maya is eternal because it depends on awareness, and we know consciousness. Consciousness is actually, it's beyond eternity, because eternal, it gives us a sense that it's something that lives forever. But consciousness is beginningless, which it takes us beyond eternity. Eternity is always linked to a beginning that lives forever. So consciousness is beginningless, is something that exists beyond the time-space paradigm. So, because limitless aware, it's eternal because it borders its existence from awareness, and it lives within awareness as a power somehow inherent to awareness. In awareness, consciousness being eternal, this Maya is likewise eternal. Now, in fact, Maya is eternal, Ishvara is eternal, and Jiva is eternal, and Jagata is eternal. The only slight difference is that the Jagata, it shrinks completely into non-existence, let's say, as non-manifested universe, okay, into the macrocosm causal universe. So the universe in which Jiva is there, Ishvara and Jagat, it shrinks and it remains as non-manifest. And Maya is always manifest, because Maya is a power. It's a power that's going to throw the universe like that, but Maya remains eternally manifest as a certain power to project the universe, okay? Maya does not exist as the world of objects do exist. It does not exist in the self either. So Maya does not exist as something manifest, fully manifest as the world, no, because Maya is just a subtle energy, a subtle power. But it does not exist within awareness or consciousness, because consciousness is non-dual. It's one without any inclusion. There is nothing other than consciousness. So it does not really exist as part of the self. It does not exist in the self. It exists somewhere between the world and between consciousness as something which is not part of consciousness, it's not part of the self, but it's somewhat related to the self, the same way our talents and our abilities relate to us, but yet they are not what we are. You know, we have several talents and abilities, so they are there. So they have a certain association with me, but they are not me. So likewise, we have this analogy to help us to somehow understand a little bit this power. It does not exist in the self either, nor it is non-existent. So it's definitely non-existent, and we have already determined that. Why? Because we know that there is a power that brings about this creation, and this power is not consciousness. So consciousness concedes or lends existence to this power, and this power projects the universe, and the universe exists because we experience it. So in that sense, Maya is absolutely not non-existent, okay? It's not really Sat, it's not really a Sat. In fact, it's not non-existent, yeah? And in fact, Maya is Mithya, as I like to put. It's the seed of Mithya. This Maya somehow exists because we experience its effects, which is the world. It appears as a video in the Jiva, the human Jiva. So this Maya, it's going to manifest as ignorance or avidya, as I already mentioned. Avidya is beginningless, but it's not eternal. You see, there is a difference between beginningless and eternal. Eternal is something that has a beginning but lives forever. So this Maya creates this phenomenon called avidya. The vidya is beginningless, but it's not something that is eternal, because this phenomenon can be ended. Okay, it ends with self-knowledge according to the scriptures, and the self-knowledge is going to allow the human intellect to understand its fundamental, true, free, limitless nature. That's very simple. So as consciousness, and consciousness being the fundamental, free, limitless nature of the entire universe as well. So avidya has an end. It does not have a beginning, and it's an effect. It's an effect of Maya. Maya is going to produce this beautiful world, but is going to produce duality, and this duality is going to deceive the human intellect. Any considerations or questions? Shunyan, non-existence. Is Maya non-existent? Maya is not non-existence, Shunyan, because a non-existent thing cannot borrow existence from consciousness, nor can it produce effects. So if Maya is the cause of the universe, so it must somehow not be non-existent. If it would be non-existent, it would never be able to produce this beautiful universe as its effects. So it's there between consciousness and the world, and it is absolutely non-existent. It's absolutely not non-existent. Okay, it's not shunyan. It exists. And exists because it must exist, because it produces something that exists. We experience its effect, which is the world. And by experiencing its effects, we infer the existence of its cause, which is Maya. If you define Maya as the cause of the universe, then you cannot define it as non-existence, because something that does not exist cannot cause something. Very simple. Shunyan, which is non-existence, is a sat. Non-existence is a sat. So sat is reality. A sat is absolutely unreal. So on Panchadasi, again and again, we see this, this statement that there are certain things that not are real, others are not real, others are apparently real. But Shunyan, which is non-existence, is absolutely not real. Okay? Now, there is no such a thing as non-existence. Okay? And we have established it several times. And Maya is not non-existent. Shunyan, which is non-existence, is unreal. It's exactly like the antlers of a butterfly. So how about Maya? Is Maya real, or is Maya unreal? Like Shunyan. We know that Maya exists. So, and then it must be real. We established that it's not Shunyan, it exists. So Maya exists because it produced the effect, meaning the universe, and the universe exists. And then the question, so how about Maya? Is Maya real? Since it produced the world, and the world exists. And then the answer, as we all know, is that Maya is not real. Because what is the definition of real? Is that which is always ever present, never modified, and something that enjoys a free and independent nature, is something that does not exist depending on another factor, So it's like the Jivatma. Is the Jivatma real or not real? And the yes and no. Because if you take the Jivatma to be its three bodies, its substantial nature, and then it's enjoying, it's enjoying a dependent existence which comes from Atma. Fortunately, the Jiva is not only Jiva, is Jiva Atma. So because the Jiva is Jiva Atma, it has both natures within itself. It has its borrowed dependent nature, but it has its original free and independent nature as Atma, as the self. You understand? That's the real deal, the good deal about being a Jiva Atma. Maya is not real because it does not stand alone. It enjoys a dependent existence, and he gets that existence from Brahman, Satchitananda. Although it is eternal, Maya is not always manifest. This contradicts a little bit what I said. So I would put it, although Maya is eternal, it not always produce an effect. Okay? So when he produces an effect, and then he brings about Ishvara, Jiva, Jagata. But Maya is the power. Okay? It remains as a power inherent to consciousness, to Satchitananda, in the same way some of our talents are always there and related to us, and many times without our notice, meaning to say they do not manifest, they do not produce any effects. If Maya is not real, if it is not real or unreal, so it's not real, it's not Sat, it's not Asat, what is Maya then? Maya is like a dream. It's neither real nor unreal. A dream is real when you are in it, and unreal when you are not in it. Every erroneous notion is neither real nor unreal. No? So this is very nice. So if we have an unreal notion, we can never say that that is real. But we can never say that it's not unreal, because it's real from the standpoint of the person having a unreal notion. A dream is a notion. It occurs in a certain state of the jiva, and it's real from the standpoint of the dreamer. But it's not really real from the standpoint of the waker in that sense. So when we have a piece of ignorance operating in our minds, that is our reality. The moment that we reveal our notions and we remove certain ignorance, and then that appears to be unreal. So every erroneous notion is neither real nor unreal, but it's just like meteor. If it's real, it will never go away. How nice, huh? If it's real, it will never go away. If it's unreal, it will never stay for long. If it is unreal, you will never experience it. If it is unreal, you'll never experience it. Okay? So we cannot experience that which is really unreal, like the, the butterfly antlers. Yeah? But you can experience something that is not either real or unreal, but something that is apparently real. If it's unreal, you'll never experience it, but you do experience the world, which is an effect of Maya. So Maya is mithya. It's neither real nor unreal. It is seemingly real. Sat, asat, vilakshana. It's unique in every way. Every object in the world, every name and form, anything that we can know and sense is mithya. Whatever is experienced is mithya. And whatever is known objectively is mithya. There is only one knowledge that is not about mithya, and that is self-knowledge. Is the knowledge in respect to the substratum of mithya, the fundamental nature of mithya. The mithya teaching is the essence of Vedanta and the key to self-knowledge. So why that is said? So if we take the world to be real rather than just an appearance, and then we are stuck in duality, okay? We will be in duality and we will say, okay, I take it, I understand, the self is real, but the world must be real because I experience it, and I cannot experience something that does not exist. Yes, and if I experience something that exists, it is real. Yeah? And then the Upanishad come and say, wait a moment, because there are several things that you experience and it's not real, including your dreams, including a mirage, including the rainbow on the sky and many other physical phenomena. Yeah? So it's a different category, as we know. Mithya teaching is the essence of Vedanta because it's going to bring, this is mithya, it's apparently real, it exists, we live, we transact, we see it, but we need to understand what is the reality. We see mithya. That's why Vedanta does not encourage anybody to say like, wow, this is mithya, so I don't touch it. No, you cannot not touch it. You were born in mithya. You need to transact in mithya until you understand the fundamental, true nature, the essence of mithya as satya. So we need to understand mithya. Otherwise, we believe that, okay, everything is the self. There are a lot of people who say, that, no, everything is the self, the world is the self. But then what happened? People take the world to be satya, real, and not a mere appearance in consciousness. Do you understand? That's why it's said to be fundamental for self-knowledge. As long as you don't know that consciousness is real and the world is seemingly real, Brahma, Satya, Jagan, Mithya, there is no self-knowledge for you. Why? We're going to be chasing the world, believing it is real. And when we chase the objects of the world, trying to solve our most fundamental quest, or question. So what happened? We are developing vasanas and we remain trapped in the world, samsara. No, I take the world to be real, and then I'm trapped, and I have those vasanas, and the vasanas are reinforced, and then there is no chance for moksha or self-knowledge. Why? Because the mind, under the spell of avidya, running for or against objects, is in a certain mental condition that is not conducive to self-inquiry and self-knowledge. Understand? So we need to understand the mithya nature of the world so that we can stop developing vairagya in relation to the world. And in doing so, we develop a proper mental environment on which we can inquire and discriminate. But when you understand Mithya, you can relax and stop allowing experience to apparent contaminate you. Contaminate you is to control you, or to I mean, your nature is flawless, and nothing can contaminate the self, which is our true nature, in that sense. So if we understand Mithya, and then we can, in spite of Mithya, we can relax and interact, transact in the world of Mithya, but not allowing the transaction, this subject object, to bind me, to blind me, to veil me, or to slave me, or something like that. Maya is not identical with awareness. It's not different from awareness either. It's not a part, because awareness is beyond time and space. So time and space comes from Maya. So Maya, is not a part of consciousness, because consciousness, Satchitananda, is something beyond Maya comes into place, and Maya is responsible for time and space. So if there is no time and space before Maya, how can Maya be a part of consciousness? Because the notion of parts implies space. Do you understand, Claudio? It's very difficult to understand consciousness, because we need to give up the notion of time and space. And our experience, our knowledge, our language, everything is within time and space. It's not identical to consciousness, and it's not different, and it's not a part of consciousness. Consciousness is before Maya, therefore before space comes into place. Therefore, there is no room for parts in consciousness. Therefore, Maya is not a part of consciousness. This is beautiful logic. As always, if space has no parts, how can its cause have parts? So, and then he makes another analogy. If space, which is an effect of Maya, has no parts, how can the fundamental cause of the universe, which is consciousness, have parts? Now, if space has no parts, evidently Maya is partless as well. It is, a power, without anything, until it brings about, the three energies. But here the analogy is between space and consciousness. So if space itself, which is a great metaphor for consciousness, if space itself, which is a byproduct or an effect of Maya, it holds its nature of a partless whole. So what about consciousness, which is something other or before Maya and space? If Maya is part of consciousness, it will affect consciousness. Suppose Maya is part of consciousness, and then Maya, would affect consciousness, because what affects a part affects the whole. So meaning to say, if Maya is a part of consciousness, okay, and then there is something other than consciousness, when there are two, there is two parts, and everything affects everything within the manifest universe, which is made of parts. In the manifestation of Mithya, everything is impacting everything else. So if Maya is part of consciousness, it would affect consciousness. Because what affects a part, there is a little part of consciousness, and then there is Maya, and then forget it. And then the whole consciousness is no longer pure and, and partless, and it's affected by the power of Maya. So Maya, it is different from all the three. It's different from Sat, Asat, and non-existence. So what is Maya? Maya is superimposed, just as a dream is superimposed on the waker. It seems to be a part of consciousness, but Maya is a superimposition of in consciousness. We say that Maya superimposed the universe on consciousness, and here we are seeing a different notion that Maya is a superimposition itself in consciousness, okay? A superimposition means to say a projection, a mirage, or something that's projecting consciousness is a very subtle power, but it's not a part of consciousness, okay? It's just like a dream that was superimposed in the waker. Huh? Are you guys with me? We lost Lynn for a moment. Okay. Maya is a little tough because of its subtlety. The verse 50, hence, like nothingness, Maya is not a standalone entity. Nothingness is non-existence. Non-existent. Maya is apparent existent. And in either case, nothingness and Maya, they do not stand alone, meaning to say, even the notion of non-existence has its non-existence from existence of consciousness, because even a notion can exist as a notion, even if it is a wrong notion. No? Maya is not a standalone entity in the apparent reality too. Jivas are not considered to be different from their abilities, and then it brings that analogy. So what's Maya? Maya is not free and independent from consciousness, awareness. It is not a standalone entity, okay? And likewise the Jivas. So the Jivas have their abilities and the talents. These abilities and the talents, they are not independent entities. Yeah? They are certain powers that inherent to the individual Jiva that are there and can manifest, but in other occasions, circumstances do not manifest. Because Maya is mithya, reality is not considered to be duality. So this is a very important point. Maya is mithya. Jiva is mithya. Jagata is mithya. It's all part of a mirage, an appearance, okay? Ishvara is mithya. That is a tough one. Yeah? Ishvara as well is mithya, okay? So we have to say that, but be very careful. For our own sake, we don't want to attract a lot of people angry with us. And also for our own process, it's important to take Ishvara into our equation of life and be grateful for this apparent existence. It's apparent, Jiva we are. So it's through these apparent Jivas that we can get down to Satya, which is the essential nature of Jiva, Jagata, and Ishvara. Huh? Maya is mithya. Therefore, reality is not considered to be duality. So what is duality? Duality is if there is something that is sat, real, and then there is something else that appears which is also real. And then we have double reality. Yeah? Like what? Like consciousness and the world. If we say the world is real, if God is real, if Jiva is real, and if Maya is real, and then we have duality. So Maya is not real, Jiva is not real, Jagat is not real, and Ishvara is not real. Therefore, there is no question of duality. But how so? Just like the image project on the screen, of a cinema screen. The images are there, they appear, but they are just a projection. So is there a question of duality there? The screen and, the landscape, there is no duality. Why? Because the landscape is not real. You understand? The landscape is not real. There is only one thing, which is the screen, and then the landscape is just a projection. So Maya is Mithya, and because Maya is Mithya, Ishvara, Jiva, Jagat is Mithya, a reality can be seen as non-duality, as opposed to duality. And again, why it's important to understand that the world, although it exists, it's not real, because we want to know what is reality. Everybody who comes to Vedanta wants to know what is the truth. Why I'm here, what is the truth about my existence? I want to get to the bottom, of this issue and find the truth. I want to know what is my nature, my fundamental nature. So because Maya is Mithya, reality is non-duality. This is why we say reality is Advaita. If Maya is real, then reality is Dvaita, duality. An unreal thing is like a non-existent thing, but it is not a non-existent thing because it is experienced. Okay, there are things that are not real, like the dream, but they are experienced. Okay, an unreal thing is like a non-existent thing, but it's not exactly a non-existent thing. It is just a mithya thing. Okay, it is a apparently existing, seemingly existing thing. Why? Because it is experienceable. Unreal never means non-existent. In what way is an unreal thing similar to a non-existent thing? In what way an unreal thing, something that is unreal, is similar to a non-existent thing? Non-existent money, for example, and fake money, counterfeit money, are not equal, because one is I reach my how you say, pockets, and I have no money, and then on the other pocket I have fake money. So, and then non-existent money is different from fake money. So they are not identical, but they are similarly equivalent of no money, because fake money and no money is somehow, unreal, or not money, or moneyless. You are moneyless in both. Since Maya is the power, Shakti, of awareness, of consciousness, and cannot be separate from consciousness, it cannot be counted as a second principle. Okay, there is no such a thing as a second entity. Just as you do not think that an artist and his artistic talent are two different principles. We don't see an artist and its artistic talent as two different principles or entities. Okay, it's one entity. So Maya has this Shakti. Maya Shakti is the power to project. It cannot be separate the same way our talents are not separate from ourselves, the talent of an artist. The biography of a person includes his talents, abilities, characteristics, etc. But the biography of the person with its abilities, history, and so on is not the person, right? Are we okay? Now we have a Mr. Objector, because Vidyaranya has presented that Maya Shakti, yeah, is a power, Shakti, inherent to consciousness and cannot be separate from consciousness. And he is hammering on the notion that but Maya has to be negated as not Sat. It's not a Sat, but it is something in between Sat and the Sat, but it's not really real. So it's a power inherent to awareness, but it's not a part of awareness. Yeah? And it's not separate as well. It's not a part, it's not separate. It's there relating to awareness the same way the art, yeah, the artistic talent is related to the artist. But Maya is now real. Yeah? And then the objector felt a little offended and say, how can you say that about Shakti? How can you discount Shakti as not Sat? Yeah? And then the objector say, Shakti makes a huge difference. People with high Shakti have much more successful lives. Actualized energy, actualized Shakti is real. He says Shakti is a power, and it may not be a big deal when it's not actualized or manifest, but once it's manifest, it's real. It's a real thing, it means success, So you can have a very successful life if you have good Shakti, good power, good energy, good rajas, rajas backed up by sattva. So that is the argument here. And then Vidyaranya say, potential is wonderful, but only when it is actualized. That's a very nice angle. He says, okay, this energy is a nice potential thing, it's there. But in itself, it's nothing, because it's only good once it is actualized. So before he says actualized energy is the real deal, and then he says potential is very nice. It's good to have this Shakti, but it has value only when it is actualized, meaning to say it's not really that big, because, if you have Shakti, you have to work hard to manifest its potential. So it's not really such an amazing thing, real deal. And then he say money, for instance, is of no use until you spend it. This is again another nice point, So say now, then the big deal is to have money. Okay, but what is money? Money, it's manifests, actualizes itself when you buy a house, buy a car, buy whatsoever dress or anything, and then you have actualized money. You need to spend it. Don't worship energy. It keeps going. Don't worship energy, because people love energy. In the spiritual world, people go crazy for energy. They get around these famous gurus, because they want to drink, to feed on that Shakti, So they love it, this radiation of Shakti, Satya Shakti, Sattva Shakti. So don't worship energy. Many spiritual people worship energy, but live unsuccessful spiritual lives. So if you are spiritual people, if you fall for worshiping energy, you are going to be spiritually unfulfilled, let's say. The Upanishad is talking about something that is prior to this energy, to this Shakti. The Upanishad is talking about something which is real, which is Sat, which is prior to the Shakti that creates the universe, creates the world, okay? In the world, energy is useful. But energy has no effect on you, okay? Because energy, Shakti, is something other than you. Yeah? It comes from Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti brings about all the other Shaktis. Yeah? In the world, energy is good. You can make use of it, but spiritually speaking, it's not going to do much to you. You have to worship what? That which is prior to energy. Yeah? Oh no, I want to worship my Kundalini. I want my Kundalini to, to rise, 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 and then I'm going to have this transcendental experience. And we know people that lives the entire life playing with these energies. Huh? So just worship that which is prior to energy. Vedanta reveals that which is not affected by energy, that which is not affected by Maya, that which is beyond, before, or other than Shakti or Maya Shakti. So Vedanta reveals that which is other than Maya Shakti as one's true nature, and in fact, the nature of Maya Shakti itself. So we want to get to the fundamental nature of things. We don't want to get, into the phenomenon that come in Mithya, Why? Because we want to find reality. We don't want to have something that come and go. Okay. So the next topic here is Maya does not hide awareness. And this is better said. So Maya does not really hide awareness or consciousness. The power of the earth to produce pots does not apply everywhere, but only on those places where clay exists. This is a very nice analogy. So the earth has a power to produce several instruments, several utensils, of argilla, but it does not produce on all surface of the world, only where there is some clay on the surface of the world, of the earth. So likewise, Maya does not produce the world on the entire self. You understand? So Maya does not superimpose, Maya does not project the world, the universe, the cosmos, covering the entire self. You understand? So this is a very interesting concept, because we often say that Maya has a power to somehow cover the self. And now we have this other notion that says, no way, it does not cover first, because it's just a superimposition, and the self remains as the substratum or the screen on which it is. Okay, it may apparently hide it, but until you work things out, and then you see the substratum of this image. Yeah? So one, and second, Maya does not cover the self, because Maya may have a certain effect, but in a small, insignificant part of the self. And that again brings us into trouble, because we cannot say that the self has parts. You understand? But the self is this all-pervasive existence, which is the source of chitta, knowledge, consciousness. You see? It's conscious existence, self-conscious existence. It's one without a second. It has no space relate to it. And then Maya somehow superimposed in a small fraction of consciousness, although consciousness has no parts. So it is something we're going to figure out next week, because it's all about the difficult to address these teachings about consciousness, the self, in dualistic language, space-time language, right? Okie dokie, my friends. I hope you have enjoyed this tough subject called Mr. Maya.
Arlindo,
Yeah.
only one thing, you give a very beautiful definition of reality, and you say that it's always ever present, it never changes, and it doesn't depend on anything, correct? Is this three things, or we have more?
It's, I mean, reality is that which is always ever present and never modify, okay? It never change, and it has an independent existence. Okay, it's not something that depends on something else, and that is to explain Mithya. Mithya depends on Satya. Satya does not depend on Mithya. So,
okay, thank you.
That's why we say we want to know our true nature as free, free and limitless and independent nature. Independent. This word is important, okay? Because I enjoy my independent nature as conscious, and meaning to say, I don't depend on anything, right?
Yeah.
Dependence is a problem. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you.
See you next Thursday, Ishvara willing. Namaste, arrivederci.
Ciao.
Goodbye, Elizabeth. How
goodbye, Linda.
How you say goodbye in German or in Dutch language?
Goeiedag.
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 Okay.
It's very strange.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.